Welcome, viewers and listeners, to another edition of CHP Talks. I'm here with a very special guest today, Salena Zito from Pennsylvania. Salena, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So, Salena Zito is a veteran political reporter with more than 20 years of award-winning experience in print and broadcast journalism. She's currently a national political reporter for the Washington Examiner, a post she has held since 2016, and she's also a regular contributor for the Wall Street Journal. She was previously a columnist at the New York Post and the Atlantic. Throughout her career, she's also been a reporter and columnist for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. Her columns have been syndicated in more than 200 local, regional, and national newspapers nationwide. She was a CNN contributor for 5 years and remains a frequent broadcast guest for her insights on the American electorate. She first came to my attention as a frequent guest on the Hugh Hewitt podcast, and I've long appreciated her deep understanding and affinity with the common folks, the working class Americans. She's also the author of a new book, already a New York Times bestseller. That book is Butler, The Untold Story of the Near Assassination of Donald Trump and the Fight for America's Heartland. So, Salena Zito, welcome to CHP Talks. It's an honor and privilege to have you on our show and to get your firsthand report about what happened in Butler on July 13th, 2024. We want you to talk about your book and about the shift you see in politics in the U.S. heartland.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, just going to start off. I've read your book, Butler. It's a marvelous piece of work, and it goes into so many areas way beyond the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, although that's pivotal for it. But you get into all kinds of things about U.S. politics and where things are going. But you were a few feet away from President Trump when a bullet fired by a would-be assassin went through his ear. And in your book, Butler, you describe all that, the crowd, the excitement, the sudden change that took place when those shots rang out. Can you describe your emotions in those first few minutes?
I don't think I had any emotions. I'm a journalist. I understood in the moment I had a job to do, and I sort of just went in that mode and paid attention to everything around me. Within detail. People will read that in the book. The president, what he did, how he reacted, how the people around him reacted, and I knew, we have purpose in life, and I knew my purpose was to do the best job that I could possibly do in that moment.
And
And that's
you had your daughter and your son-in-law with you, and you were just right up close. You were scheduled to interview the president at the event. Obviously, that didn't happen that day for obvious reasons, but President Trump called you the next day to apologize for the change of plans, as if he really had anything to apologize for. But did that surprise you to get that call from him?
Yeah, sure. I was very surprised to. I know I was one of the last people he talked to before he went on stage, and he was only shot minutes after he went on stage. So I'm sure he knew he was going to interview with me. I was going to fly back to Bedminster with him, and so. But it was still, incredibly thoughtful to ask about myself, my daughter, and my son-in-law, after I had been shot, that he had been shot and I had not been
Yeah,
shot.
right.
And those conversations then went, there were about seven of them, and they were very profound, very conversations about faith and the hand of God and what is my divine purpose. And people will read that in the book and really get an insight to the man that they often don't get,
Yeah.
or don't look for.
Yeah, I think you brought it out so well, and I think it would be good if every American realized uh, how much of an impact that moment had on him, because he realized, and you discussed it with him, that he was spared by the hand of God, and
Yeah,
that's amazing. And
yeah,
also, I have a question later on, but if we don't get there, I wanted to ask you, mention right now for folks who are thinking of getting the book Butler, you should get it for sure. And your introduction is so fascinating because you explain something that I had never heard, and I was raised in the States. I had never heard about George Washington being shot at in Butler, in
yeah.
Butler County. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
both of them almost lost their lives in Butler, and you sort of have to, and people will enjoy, I think, that moment, that beginning,
yeah.
uh, and you have to think about consequences, right? Had George Washington died in that moment, there would have been no French and Indian War, which he started, weeks later,
Yeah.
and no French and Indian War. Well, the crown doesn't have to pay down a debt. So there's no revolution because the colonists are not taxed. And so are we still then part of the crown at this point, 250 years later? And the same with President Trump. There's all kinds of things that wouldn't have happened had he died in that moment. There would have been no stoppage to the border crossings. There would have been no Iran-Israel deal. There would have been no disarming of the Iran's nuclear capabilities. There would have been no U.S. steel deal,
Yeah.
and jobs and lives would have been changed for generations. So there's consequences to both, and it's important to be reflective of those.
Exactly. And because that always seems, I'm also a student or of both the Revolution and the Civil War, and the tragedy of Abraham Lincoln being shot at the end of that, which such a poignant moment as well, and how that no doubt changed the course of events. If he had been around, many people think that the nation would have healed much more quickly and
Yeah.
successfully. But so anyway, we are grateful that both George Washington and Donald Trump survived those assassination attempts. Um, One of the things what gives you so much such a unique perspective on the significance of the event is that it took place in Butler, Pennsylvania, and you yourself have roots in that area. You have ancestors who lived and worked in Butler and Butler County. You live nearby in Westmoreland County. But more than that, you are a reporter who's made a point of connecting very deeply with the working folks, the moms and dads who make up middle America and who, in spite of all the challenges they face, are the voters and citizens who choose presidents and senators and mayors. So you understand how folks think, what makes them tick, and you ascribe a lot of importance to something that you call place. In the book, you bring it out so well, and a connectedness to the communities and the families, the sports teams, etc., the collective memories of people who still live close to where they were born and even where their parents were born. Can you explain why this is so important in politics and in achieving or maintaining all that is best about America?
Well, I think a sense of place and rootedness is a nuance that's missed by, not often missed, it's always missed by pollsters and strategists because it's hard to capture that nuance, that moment, that feeling. But there is a sense of power that comes from being rooted in place that is much more important than having a condo in New York City and getting a bonus every year and a fancy car. For people in the middle of the country, there's more value in being connected and living near your grandparents or your parents or your grandchildren and being able to be someone important in terms of service to your community. And the person that speaks to that sense of place and recognizes it and respects it, which Trump does, is why he's caused such a cultural and political shift in the country. And people have not recognized pollsters, strategists on both sides of the aisle have not understood why that essence can impact the voter.
Yeah, there's a magic about the way he connects with people, and he's a master at it. And I think the average American and many of us up here in Canada fully appreciate that. There's been a bit of water under the bridge in the last little while because of the tariffs and so on, but those who recognize the commonality of our hopes and dreams as human beings and as North Americans living in Western democracies certainly recognize the value of reaching out and touching the lives around. He's been very good about touching the lives. You mentioned the fellow who was unfortunately killed at Butler, Corey, and how much the president went out of his way to honor the man and his family and to recognize what a tragic loss that was. So today I think you share that sense of compassion and the need to interact with those who are grieving. You've just been to Clareton to meet with some impacted by, we in Canada, not everybody in Canada will know about it, but this terrible explosion at this U.S. steel coke plant. And so I just want to comment. Do you want to say anything about that thing? I had to kind of read up about what that is. The coke plant is they produce the fuel for the steel industry.
Right. It takes the coal, it turns it into coke, and then that makes the steel.
Right.
And it's a very dangerous mill. Out of all the three mills that are there, it's the most dangerous. There's gases, there's chemicals, there's extreme heat, and while it was common for tragedies to happen in decades past, that has not been the case in the past few decades. And so this was a very, very sad event. There is a fraternal love between men that work at that plant that is very hard to describe unless you've experienced it and seen it. But these are all members of family, and they all work together. They all live around each other. They all go to church together, and so this really hurt the community hard. And it is a very sad day in Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So you were there speaking today with the governor and others and some of the family members. Is that correct?
And the CEO of U.S. Steel, David
Okay.
Barrett.
Yeah. My background before I got to doing what I'm doing today in the political realm, I worked in the sawmills up here, and we've even had explosions at sawmills with fine wood dust. If the air is full of fine wood dust, it can act just like an explosive material. And we've had some unfortunate situations with that as well. So, in listening to you on the Hugh Hewitt podcast, he often refers to you as a yinzer. And I finally looked that up the other day, and because I didn't know what a yinzer was. But for our audience, I thought it would be good to explain what a yinzer is.
So Yinzer is someone from Western Pennsylvania. The early on in the founding, even before we were a country, it was heavily populated by Scots who had migrated to the Appalachian Mountains and out of Scotland, mainly on religious liberty issues. And if you've ever talked to anyone from Scotland, they have a really hard emphasis on their consonants. And so instead of people saying, "What are you all doing?" or "What are you, what are all of you doing?" we say, "What are yins doing?"
Yeah.
And so that's why we're called Yinzers.
Yeah, very good. I saw that when I looked it up in Wikipedia, it said comes from the you ones or
Yeah.
Yuans, which comes out to yin. So that's great. Um, Anything else before we close off that you would like to share with our viewers and listeners? Most of our folks are in Canada, but we do have some listeners south of the border as well.
Oh no, I have. Our family has a go to a cottage every year up in Buckhorn, Ontario.
Oh,
So since the late 1940s. So I've crossed the border at least 66 times in my lifetime. And always jealous that you all have coffee crisp candy bars and we don't.
okay.
Those are my favorite. But I think Middle America is not all that different from what I see in Canada and in my travels there. And it's a challenge for a lot of reporters. A lot of your reporters are located in Toronto and Ottawa. Ours are in New York and DC, and they tend to have very different outlooks and lifestyles and worldviews, and less connected with the people who live in the other provinces.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think there's not much difference between all of us. And the importance is that my profession does a better job of covering people in the middle of both countries.
Yeah, very good. Salena, I was going to ask you, and I'm sorry if I can still squeeze this in if you still have the
Sure.
time. You eventually, although you were not able to interview Mr. Trump on the day of the events in Butler, he did make room for you and time for you to sit down with him and have a proper interview at a later date. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you talk about it in the book, but for those who haven't read the book yet.
So I think the most interesting interview actually happened the next day. It was the last time that he called me. And I asked him why he said fight, fight, fight. And he said to me, Selena, at that moment, I wasn't Donald Trump, like the guy. I was represented the presidency the presidency of the United States and all the presidents that came before me. And it is our obligation as the president to project strength and sort of grit and that exceptionalism that the country and the people are noted for. And I knew it was very important to do that in that moment, in particular for the people that were there so that they didn't panic, but
Right.
also for people that may have been watching it on television. And so people think that he did that for all these different reasons, but what he did it mostly was for to let everyone know that we're okay. We're going to be okay.
I want to, before we close, I want to just put on the screen for those watching. We have both audio and video podcast, but I wanted to put the cover of your book, Butler, The Untold Story of the Near Assassination of Donald Trump and the Fight for America's Heartland. It's a great cover, and you were blessed to have your daughter with you doing photography. So that
Yep.
was a pretty neat way although it was a frightening event, it was wonderful that you were there, even there with family. So I recommend people buy the book Butler and read it. You'll get a kick out of it because it'll tell you something about the American character, the nature of Americans going back to George Washington before there was a United States of America. So, Salena Zito, author of the new book Butler, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you for
today.
having me. It was an honor. Thank you.
Keep up your amazing journalism and your Sunday dinners with your family. You are
Thank,
having an impact on politics and viewpoints in Canada as well as the USA. So thank you so much.
thank you.
God
Bye-bye.
bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.